sometime in October, November. We were on a mission trip to the USA. So we are finally glad that you have come to Africa for the first time, and to Mbarara University specifically, to get some consultative talks with us here in Mbarara.
You're watching AYT TV, empowering you.
Introductions would be the routine. It's like being in the boxing ring. When you have an opponent, you need to understand how much that opponent weighs and how much you weigh before the game can start. That's the rule of boxing. You cannot put a lightweight or a featherweight with a heavyweight champion. So we need to understand each other before we begin. So I will give the opportunity to everyone. May we begin maybe on my left side, and then we go this way, and then we shall end with our US there, who is representing the Vice Chancellor today. So maybe Professor Bob would go before the Vice Chancellor. So we start this way.
Thank you very much. My name is Anke Weisheit. I'm an agriculture engineer, co-founder of Biotruck, which is the full pharmaceutical biotechnology research center, where I'm serving as the chair innovation and business management. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm Medad Tuinamatsko Katonera. I'm a senior lecturer in the Faculty of Interdisciplinary Studies. I also work as a director of innovations and technology transfer at our Center for Innovation and Technology Transfer, Mbarara University of Science and Technology. You're welcome, Prof.
Thank you, Master of Ceremonies. My name is Kasim Umbatolo. I'm the director of Farm Biotruck, which in full engineer Angle has been mentioned. I'm also a senior lecturer in the Department of Biology, Mbarara University of Science and Technology. I'm happy to be here and interact with our friend Bob from US, who is going to address us shortly. Thank you.
Thank you, members. Good afternoon to you all. My name is Julius Lejo, the Dean Faculty of Science, and I also teach in the Biology Department. It's nice to be here.
I'm Sheila Ninye Tuinamatsko. I'm the International Relations Officer, Mbarara University of Science and Technology, and I'm glad to be here. I look forward to learning a lot.
Thank you. I'm John Sobungoloch. I'm the Dean of the Faculty of Applied Sciences and Engineering. I'm also Senior Lecturer in the Department of Biomedical Engineering. I'm glad to be here, and you are welcome to Mbarara University.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Giovanni Simpidire. I'm the Procurement Officer from Biotruck.
Hello, my name is Melanie Agutu, and I am part of PAVE administration and board. Thank you.
Did you want me to introduce myself right this second? I'm Bob Hopkins. I hope you can all hear me, because I plan to walk around as I'm using this. I guess this is for that. Is that right? Okay, so it's not for you all to hear. Necessarily so therefore I'll be loud and clear. From the United States, I was born on the Mexican border, a place called Nogales, Arizona, something you didn't even know. And I live in Dallas, Texas now, and I have for 34 years doing philanthropy work, and I'm excited to be here.
Thank you so much. I'm Dr. Rogers Barrio. I'm the Dean Faculty of Interdisciplinary Studies.
Good afternoon, members. I'm Robina Flora Nakaketo. I'm a Deputy Secretary in charge of planning.
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. I am Masudio Docas, Administrative Assistant of Farm Biotruck. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Oloro Joseph. I'm a lecturer in the Department of Pharmacology and a chair of the Curriculum Committee in the Faculty of Medicine.
Thank you. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Hebe BK Emmanuel. I'm the Farm Biotrack Administrator. You're all welcome.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Mary Amongi, Assistant Registrar, and at the moment I'm representing the Academic Registrar.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Troy Ronald. I am from the Public Relations Office here at MAST. Thank you.
Thank you very much, everybody. I introduce myself. My name is Robert Tamukong. I'm Associate Professor here of Clinical Pharmacy, originally from the University of Minnesota. I came to Mbarara in 2017 to support the Farm Biotrack project, which is which was then a new project sponsored by the World Bank through the government of Uganda. So I was co-opted by the Vice Chancellor of the university here to come and develop some new programs. And we did develop 4 master's programs, among which is the Masters of Pharmacy in Clinical Pharmacy, which was the first in Uganda, and 3 other master's programs and many other PhD track programs that we have developed. So I've been here for 6 years, and I really love being here. Beautiful place. So a preamble to our meeting today. I'm sure many of you received an invitation to be here today. On one of our mission trips to Dallas, Texas, a team of 4, myself, Dr. Tolo, Engineer Anker, and the Vice Chancellor, Professor Celestino Oboa, in Dallas, we had the privilege and the opportunity to meet Professor Bob Hopkins. And we were there for a fact-finding mission, as well as trying to lobby for support in terms of Farm Biotrack. For those who don't know Farm Biotrack, it's a World Bank funded project that was instituted in 2017 here at Mbarara University of Science and Technology. So Mbarara University competed with many other universities to become a center of excellence in traditional medicine and biotechnology. So in that regard, their mandate was to build capacity in that area of biotechnology and traditional medicine. So training was one of the dockets of the deliverables. So in that regard, we built several curricula, and we have trained so far about 85 and graduated master's students in all the courses, all the programs. We recruited about 30 PhDs, and we have about 50% that has graduated, with another 50% pending. We do many other activities in terms of community training. We train herbalists in different communities in order to standardize their practice. We have an incubation center here that incubates our products from the development stage up to maturation and then commercialization. Engineer Anker is in charge of that docket, and we have also been able to equip many laboratories here at the university. There are 4 major laboratories that Farm Biotrack has equipped. We have the pharmaceutical production lab, which is housed here at the Faculty of Applied Science and Technology, which deals with research, development, and production of medicine from the leaf that you pick in the garden to the capsule that you swallow. We have the pharmaceutical analytical lab, which is found in the town campus, majorly funded and equipped by Farm Biotrack. We have the biotechnology lab, which is housed in the Faculty of Science building, majorly equipped by Farm Biotrack. And then we also support other laboratories that are around the university. We have a capacity of about 18 staff in terms of human resource that has been running the center over the 5 years. And we have other deliverables that we would probably hear in the course of this meeting today. So 5 years have come and gone. Now we don't want to die as Farm Biotrack. One of the promises we made to the government of Uganda and to the World Bank was to come up with a sustainability plan. Because many projects come and go, and before you know it, the name is forgotten when funding dwindles. So Farm Biotrack has worked very hard to come up with a sustainability plan. One of it would be to create a foundation which would serve as an endowment fund that would continue the work of Farm Biotrack. In that light, we have incorporated the Friends of Farm Biotrack Foundation in the United States of America with headquarters in Minnesota as a 501c3 organization, non-profit, tax exempt, which means we will be leveraging support from the USA on a tax-deductible basis. We have always also been able to incorporate the Friends of Farm Biotrack Foundation in Uganda as a non-for-profit organization with an NGO board. That way we shall be able to use the two angles in order to canvas for support and leverage funding for Farm Biotrack to continue. We also have been able to lead what we call a capital development grant that was given to Mbarara University through what we call the Bridging Foundation. It's a Belgian foundation that has dedicated $40 million to Mbarara University to build facilities here, laboratory facilities and other facilities that would be able to generate income that would go into the university. We are yet to get that money, but hopefully we are going to get it, and then we'll do some capital development that would benefit the university and Mbarara University beyond Mbarara University. There are many other sustainability arms, including our incubation center. We are going to be getting royalties from the products that we have incubated and that are in the market right now. Those incubators would be giving us royalties in terms of percentage every year on the products that are on the market so that we can be able to sustain the product. Before I go too far, there are many other things that I would like to say about Farm Biotrack. But allow me to give the floor to our center leader, Dr. Kasim Umba Tolo, who has led the center over 5 years. But before he comes, he would probably like to know that Bob Hopkins is here today because of the hard work that you did behind the scenes, plus Engineer Anker, to have Professor Bob Hopkins from the University of Dallas, Texas. And you will be telling us more about his visit here and the partnership that Mbarara University is trying to weave together so that we can be able, as a community, to benefit beyond the boundaries of Mbarara University as a country, Uganda. Thank you, and Center Leader, may I have the pleasure to invite you now to give some remarks before you hand it over. Thank you very
much. Is it on? Okay, so thank you very much, Professor Tamkong, for ably to address the gathering. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Kasim, Professor Hopkins. Hopkins, yes. And your colleague with whom you traveled, colleagues in the house, you are welcome. Africans talk a lot. We make long speeches. But for information, this university is the second public university in the country after Makerere. You must have heard about Makerere. Makerere has been in existence for over 100 years, so we are the second, and we are 34 years old. We are based in a rural setting if you talk about Mexico, then maybe we are like a Mexico of America. Towards the border there. So we are in a rural setting. The first university to be established in a rural setting, which is Mbarara. Now Mbarara is a land of prayers. We pray a lot. Hence the prayer I don't know how many you have heard so far. Pray a lot. So we are in good books of God. Now Mbarara is a land of plenty of milk. You will enjoy it if you want. It flows in the paths and roads. A lot of milk. With a lot of honey. Too much honey. Flora, hence the traditional medicine. He mentioned it. By the time you come to our age here, you don't know how much flora you have really consumed traditionally. Of course, they are trying to cure that by improving. I think that's the reason why. Then fauna, a lot of it. Now, there is a gentleman here, Dr. Medad, Tuinamasiko. You watch over there and see. I don't wish that you go before you interact with him, because I am sure through that interaction, and of course in guidance with the team of BioTrack, you have a lot to see in Uganda regarding flora and fauna. Yes, he recently took me to an area where I had never been before, but I thought I would stay there for long, but it was not possible. So MAST has a vibrant staff. Vibrant staff, whose results you are seeing now, whose results were able to finally reach you in Dallas. So we congratulate staff for this enthusiasm and innovativeness. I'm aware of the need for the sustainability plan, because it is one of the questions that we have been asked. Now, after ACE1, what next? And the steps they have taken are meant to address that question. I'm glad to hear the story about the possibility of having an ACE2. I hope and I wish it succeeds. But with these brains, it will, and government support. I am here on behalf of management. I want to welcome you to Mbarara University once again, and to wish you safe and good stay in MAST, because MAST is Mbarara University of Science and Technology. And we always say, MAST must succeed. So succeed we must. Thank you very much.
Thank you, US. I would now have the pleasure to introduce Professor Bob Hopkins, who is a professor of social entrepreneurship and philanthropy in many universities across Dallas, but mainly at Eastfield. And Eastfield, as I told you, happens to be my alumni association, because I went to Eastfield in 1993 as a community college where I did all my prerequisites. So Dallas is a good place of cowboys. I hope you have brought some cowboy boots and some hats for us. So he's been working in philanthropy for the last 35 years. And coincidentally, we saw a story on American television how you had picked up a baby that was dumped in snow in Kansas City, left on your veranda, and somehow you picked up that baby and you did everything that you could to save that baby's life. And 40 years later, you were wondering what that baby has become. Did the baby die? Did the baby become a failure? Is she a president of the Republic of which country? But amazingly, 40 years later, you reconnected with the lady who was in tears, that without you, she would never have had this life that she's had. Of heart that you had, that big heart that you have. And without any further ado, I would like to welcome you to give your remarks and your presentation to the top management of the university that we've been able to put together here that we are dealing with today. And hopefully, this would be the beginning of good things to happen. Not just in Barara University, but across, not in earth. It's not inborn in our African genes. But social impact, it's something that we cannot take for granted. So let's hope that this gospel that we are beginning to preach today is going to spread around. And I'm sure if we were going to ask the heavens to bless you today, come now to address us. Thank you very much. That's okay.
I know the important people are right here.
It needs a microphone, right?
You want me to do the microphone?
Which one? No, the one that clips.
For this, I don't need it because I'm a speech teacher.
Oh, the technology.
But we want to make sure that we tape this because this is my first talk in Africa. And you know, why am I here? Because God wants me here. Truly. I'm not necessarily a religious soul, but I definitely have a spirit that is controlled by God. And sometimes when you can't make a decision what to do, I go to my gut, because that's where God is for me, in my gut. And if I feel it in my stomach, and I don't feel good about it, I don't do it. If I feel like it's something I need to do, I pray about it. And if it keeps hurting my stomach, I do it. And there's not very many people in the world that would travel to a foreign country, a foreign continent, on his own dime. Which means that nobody paid me to do anything about being here today except God. And He paid me. And you know what it brings me? Joy. I really am happy to be here. This morning at 2 o'clock a.m., we drove into Mbarara, and my driver, who is Ambrose, who's my executive director of my foundation, who came to Kampala to pick me up. At 2 o'clock in the morning, we stopped at some big sphere right in the middle of town, and he said, "Welcome to Mbarara." And I awakened and went, "Yay, I can't believe I'm finally here." 3 days after I left Dallas, Texas. You know, it's amazing that you've given away a little bit about what I was going to say. But it's not, because I'd like to start with that story that you were talking about that happened 41 years ago. In Kansas City, in the snow, as you know, I was a house painter. And in the wintertime, I was a snow plower, getting snow out of people's driveways, and they'd pay me big bucks for me to come and do that. So I get a call one morning, and my friend, who is now a professor in Dallas as well as I am now, worked for me there in Kansas City. And so I said, "Come with me, we're going to go clean out this snow." So we went, and as we drove back into the driveway, and it was a big driveway with 3 garages, and the snow was probably 3 feet deep, all of a sudden my friend, his name was Bob as well, looked over there and he said, "Bob, there's something moving over there on the back porch." And so I looked and I saw something yellow moving. So I got out of my Jeep and I walked around in the snow like this, and I went up to this box, and this yellow thing on top of the box was moving. So I pulled back this blanket, I guess. And there was this little black girl looking at me like this, with twinkle and eyes and big fat cheeks. And there was a note tied around her neck, and it said, "I can't take care of this baby no more. Please find it at home." So my friend and I went to the front door to Gloria and Jim's house and knocked on the door and said, "Look what we found on your back porch." And of course they were shocked. They said, "Come in, come in, come in." And we put the baby there and we saw the note, and she was fat and she was clean and she was healthy. And it was the coldest day in Kansas City that day, which means maybe 15, 30 minutes, 45 minutes later she would have been dead. And so we called the police. The police came and said, "Oh, you know, how did you do this? What was this all about? Where did you find this baby? Whose is it?" And the people living there had no idea either. And it was on the back porch. And we couldn't understand why she was on the back porch. Not the front porch, but the back porch, if she was trying to get somebody to find her. And so, anyway, 35, 40 years later, I wanted to find that baby. So I called the Kansas City Star, and I said, "Do you remember the article about finding this baby?" Anyway, they went through their archives. And I actually talked to a woman who was working back then, and she says, "I remember that story," because they had put it in the Kansas City Star. I said, "I want to find the baby. Could you do another article in your newspaper and say that these men are trying to find you find a baby, your baby who's 41 years old?" So they did put it in. And last January, I get a call from a man who says, "I have your baby." And I went, "What? Hello? This is a joke?" I know my students know about the baby in the snow because I teach them to tell stories, and this was a story I told them. And they said, I have your baby. Do you want to talk to her? And I went, "What?" So he hands over the phone to this girl and woman, says, "Hello, I think I'm your baby. My name is Chantel, and I was found in the snow 41 years ago." So the Kansas City Star got wind of it because they called the Kansas City Star, and sure enough, last February the 1st, 2023, we found the baby. Not only did they do one page, they did 2 pages, and 3 pages, and 4 pages. I mean, like if there isn't any. So anyway, it is a story that you all Googled and found, and it just so happened that I do carry this around with me as a story, because you know what? Life is about stories, and that's why I'm here. It's a story. So why am I here? Well, it's because I'm on a podcast with another person and a bunch of people that were talking about things that happen to do with what they're doing in life. And this one man, named David Dunworth, he, who Anka has met, who you all have met when you came to Kansas City, was putting together, and I might think he told you all that he actually had adopted children here in Uganda. Okay, now, first of all, that's not the first time I'd heard about Uganda, but the first time I heard about Uganda is when I have my students in a circle in my classes, and I teach communications and entrepreneurship. "Who are you?" "My name is Pauline Bashabora, and I'm from Uganda." And I went, "Uganda? Where's Uganda?" "It's in Africa." Oh my goodness. Then I have my students write, "Who am I and why am I the person that I have become?" And in that story, she says, "I'm from Uganda, and my dad happens to be with the United Nations." United Nations? Uganda for the 3rd time, and he's from the United Nations? "I want to talk to your father." Now, number one is, if I see opportunity, I go for it. If God tells me to do something, I go for it. And I said, "I want to talk to your dad." And I said, "Who are you? Where are you?" I've been talking about Uganda. And he said, "I'm from Mbarara." Never heard of it, of course. And so one thing led to another, and I said, "Come to my house for dinner, bring your family." They came to my house for dinner. Then I went to their house for dinner. And it was solidified. I was going to go to Uganda, and I didn't know who, what, where, when, why, or about that topic. But it just so happens that today is the day that I'm supposed to be in Embarada. What am I supposed to talk about? I'm sorry, folks, it's not going to be science and technology. I'm so tired of science and technology. It's so boring. I can't hardly add. I can't do chemistry and science and physics and all of those kinds of things. I'm a lover. And I'm a lover because I started out when I was 6 years old, and this is what I looked like in my book at 6 years old. And it's a story of an introduction about when I was a little boy, about 5 or 6 years old in Garden City, Kansas. I remember going with my mother to the other side of the tracks where the poor people lived. I had never been to this part of the town, and I remember that it was dirtier than my part of the town, and the houses were small and unpainted, and there was a trailer park. And this was the first time that I had seen houses on wheels. Well, it was my mother and me, and I was with her hand because I went wherever my mother went. And my mother was a very stylish lady. She had high heels and lipstick and jewelry, and she was cute running around town. My dad was an attorney in the city, et cetera, et cetera. Mama was working for the church, and she was taking food on Thanksgiving to the people across the tracks because all the rich ladies in town, gathered food together to give to poor people. And it just so happened that the trailer park is where we went, and I remember knocking on the door, and my mother and this woman who looked very frail and very small and very tiny with 3 little children behind her. She actually was taking groceries out on the table with smiles on her faces to these very poor people who were kind of like gray against the wall. And you couldn't tell necessarily that there was any life in this house at all until my mama started taking food out of the sack for these little children and this lady. I remember when we left there, I turned around and I saw these people and these children smiling and waving goodbye. And I felt a hand on my shoulder. And it was God who said, "Bobby, you did good today." Now, you're not going to believe this, but Bobby wasn't always a good boy. But when I get that pat on my back from God, I thought, Mama likes this. Mama liked the fact that I was a good boy today and that we had fun doing something for other people. And my whole life has been like that since. I learned it from my mama. I learned it from my dad too, because he was a lawyer and he did whatever Mama said. And number 2 is we did a lot for the community. We went to church. My mother was involved in this and that. I've joined Boy Scouts of America, which is a nonprofit organization. We call it an NGO, or you can call it a not-for-profit 501c3 organization, as has already been mentioned. And I've spent my whole life doing good things, not knowing necessarily what I was doing. I just knew that every time I did something good, I got this pat on the back saying, "You did good today, Bobby." Okay, so enough of that, these 2 little stories, but leads me into really what I want to talk about. I teach college. I used to teach at Eastfield. I teach now at El Centro, which is still part of the same system. But I have my students, when they talk in my speech classes about nonprofit organizations with which they have some connection. And you all think that nobody has any connections to any nonprofits, but I'll bet you every one of you do something for the community that has to do with an organized effort. I'm sure that all of you do have a church, I'm thinking. And I know that if you go to church, you are there so you can learn to help people find solutions to problems. Only problem is, Mama and Daddy, in most households in the United States, do not have time to teach you these concepts, even though they do them. But who can teach you if your mom and dad doesn't? I decided it had to be the college. I decided it had to be the university, and I decided that my courses, which are called social entrepreneurship and called Human Communications had to be the place where students had some information about what is a nonprofit organization, how do they work, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So anyway, I decided that children needed to have a formalized education in it. It's already been mentioned several times. You are not born a giver. You learn this concept. If you don't learn it at home because mom and dad are too busy because they both work and they don't have time to go help very many people in the community, or they do it on the sly and they write little checks, or they took food over there that you never knew mama did because you don't always pay attention necessarily to know that what mama is doing is philanthropy, which means love of mankind. So I decided I needed to get it into schools. And so I started the program called PAVE, Philanthropy and Volunteerism in Education. And it happened on a napkin. I don't know if you know a lot of things, but Southwest Airlines was started on a napkin. Southwest Airlines is one of the largest airline companies in the world. And it started with Herb Kelleher on a napkin. So I put PAVE on a napkin with my friend Lynn Vogt, and we created Philanthropy and Volunteerism in Education. But after I started teaching social entrepreneurship, which means businesses who actually give back to the community. Can you believe that? A business would actually give, well, it's starting to happen in the world where AT&T or American Airlines or any of your major corporations down here, Bimbo Bread, whatever, the CEOs realize that people pat him on the back when they realize that that's a corporation who's making billions of dollars. And what are they doing with all that money? Well, they're putting most of it in the pocket. But you know what? Some are starting to give 10%, 20%, 30% of their gross incomes or the money that comes in to charitable causes. One of 2 million in the United States and one of 140,000 NGOs in the world. Which means I've already seen 3 or 4 or 5 as I'm going down the street, seeing signs that have to do with blood, have to do with refugees, have to do with people who are displaced and all these kinds of things. They're not here just on a whim. They're here sometimes with an organization that's a 501c3, an organization which actually gives back to the community, an organization that is an amazing experience for many, many people who spend a lot of time helping others. And if I went around the room and asked you what you all did every day, somewhere along the line, you're going to be involved, probably in something that has to do with the greater good, something that has to do with giving back. So anyway, I created this for high school kids, this course, PAVE, teaching them about it. And then somebody said, why don't you do high schools? And I did. And somebody said, why don't you do grade schools? And I did. What I realized, what 6- and 7-year-old kids can learn to give. But you know what? They have to be taught. And if it's not taught at home, I've already said, it's taught someplace else. And now I'm trying to get it into schools. So I went to principals of schools and said, would you let me come in 1 hour a week and let me talk to your kids, 10 and 11 years old, about giving back? And created this course so that kids could actually understand the who, what, where, when, why of giving back. Because you know what? It is a process. Do you know when the best time to give is in the year? What month do people feel in Uganda best about themselves? December. Unfortunately, most people in December have already spent their money on presents. And in the United States, we have Thanksgiving right before, and it's a time of giving. Oh, yes, it's a time of giving, but unfortunately, it's not the time of giving extra money because we don't really have any. So when's the best time you feel about yourself that you'd like to give things away? Well, in the United States, it's October, November. And the reason is because the weather is so cool and so nice that people are so tired of being 107 degrees Fahrenheit in June and July, and the kids are going back to school in September. And so the best time is when people start changing clothes. And they put on sweaters and hats, and women have to look cute and go out and buy new outfits for the fall in America. I don't know about here. So anyway, I've learned that October, November is the best time to be a giver. That's just one of thousands of concepts that I have to teach children about giving, not just when, and not just where, and not just why, but how to best be a giver to whatever. So I was so successful with this organization of PAVE, of teaching 10-year-olds about giving, that I was told, you know what, wouldn't it be fun if you gave this course instead of to rich people and the good kids, that you started gathering the bad kids from poor neighborhoods in our schools, because nobody's teaching them, and just see if you can get the behavior of these children to change because they're a giver. And what we learned so quickly is that for the first time, a group of kids got to walk across the stage at school at the end of the year and get a receipt and get a certificate that says you did good today, or give a medal around, put them around their neck and says you did good today, you did good this semester. And kids who were poor and not good behavior would walk across the room, that stage, with their head held high, with their posture like this, and teachers would say, what did you do to those kids? And I said, nothing, except gave them a purpose to live instead of one to sit in the corner or have to go to the principal's office because they can't behave. We changed behaviors of kids by teaching them the word philanthropy. And it was so amazing, unfortunately, that it had to be stopped because a new superintendent came in and said, enough of this love. We have to teach science and technology, because that's what people care about, is science and technology, and forget the heart. Who cares about the heart? What kind of a kid is it? Doesn't matter what kind of a kid he is. He made all A's and B's. How did he make all A's and B's? Probably cheated his way to the top, maybe. Not necessarily so, but possibilities thinking here or so. So anyway, long story short, at this point, is that the course has become so popular now that the University of Texas has a degree in philanthropy. And this is the first semester that it started, and I don't know how they're doing because I'm not working there, but I'm working someplace else. But I did start it at the University of Texas just by showing everyone that philanthropy and social entrepreneurship needs to be part of the coursework, no matter what you teach. And you somehow need to add in there, let's give back and let's give back. Okay, so why am I here in Embarada? In addition to being here with MUST School of Science and Technology, I've created a foundation, and Melanie happens to be on my board of directors. Her name is Melanie Aguta, and she is, along with me, on my track and trip with Ambrose, who is from here, and I happen to have some of my cards over here that I will leave with several of you. But I'll be seeing you all week in case you want to talk about this and experience about how you all can be involved in helping others. In fact, we already have a plan. Anka is in charge of some of your students who are going to be involved in the philanthropy process, which means the girls and the boys here, students here, are going to be part of making soap. And I think we're going to go plant trees. And I think with Ambrose, we're going to go paint some shelters. And I think we're going to paint a school. And I think we're going to clean a river. And my whole week or 10 days here is doing something like this to show your students and others how they too can make a difference. And you don't have to wait for the government. You don't have to wait to be told. You don't have to wait until somebody asks. You just go do it. You see a problem and you find a solution for it. And that's what I'm doing this week with Anka and with some of your students who I've already had some Zoom calls with. And they seem to be very excited, very polite, very interested in doing something for others so that they can see how it happens And then we're going to reward them at the end with certificates. We have T-shirts that say PAVE. We have ball caps that say PAVE. And the kids who are volunteering are going to be wearing them while they're painting, and while they're cleaning, and while they're doing this, whatever it else is that we decide needs to happen this week. So, fortunately for you and for these kids and for me, we're going to see an experience that we think is going to change lives. We think that the recipients of these solutions, of these problems, the recipients of the solutions of the problems here is going to make a difference not only in the city, but people are going to see people with kids with PAVE shirts on, and they're going to say, what is this and what are you doing? And we're helping others. We're doing something right. We're doing something different. We're not watching video games all the time anymore. How do you feel about it? I love it. What does it bring you? Joy, like it does to Bob Hopkins and to Melanie Agutu. So after we leave here, and 10 days is over, and we celebrate Christmas here, we're going to go to an orphanage, and we have already made arrangements, and we're going to paint the orphanage. We're going to take the kids' T-shirts. We're going to have them help us paint. It's not going to be us, them looking at us and watching us do it. And even if they're 6 years old, they want to help too. So we're going to give them a paintbrush and let them get themselves all dirty and all this kinds of stuff. And who cares if they get it on their dresses or their shirts or whatever, because it's going to be washable. We can wash it off. And these kids are going to have so much fun doing it, they're going to want to do it again. And again and again. Okay, so I've already done this in Mexico. I was there for a year. Unfortunately, when I left, the program left too, because nobody wanted to lead it because they didn't know how, because they weren't trained to do it. They were adults working with kids who were 7 and 8 and 9 years old. Well, this is not going to happen this time. We're going to work with college students who are going to help the younger kids who are going to be involved with us, who will go home and tell mom and dad what they're doing, and grandma and grandpa, and somehow the whole family will get involved. And it's going to be called a sustainable experience for these kids, which means it's not going to stop when I leave. It's going to continue because we're going to create leaders amongst your students and leaders amongst the other students who are college age or high school age who can go teach the younger kids to do it. And what we learned by this behavior is that not only changes the little kids, it changes the big kids. And not only will it change the big kids, it'll change their parents. When they have their actual kids come home and say, guess what we're going to go do today? We're going to go clean the river. What? What do you mean you're going to go clean the river? That's the government's responsibility. And they're going to say, no, it isn't. It's my responsibility. I saw the problem. I can fix it. So anyway, I have lots of stories about how this program can change lives of other kids. And that's what I'm here about this week. And thank you all for being a part and letting us inform you. Guess what? We're getting involved with you. And who knows, maybe I'll even come back and get my doctorate degree in philanthropy that you're going to create. Anyway, thank you for being here. So I'm ready for you, some thoughts or some questions that you might have. And I knew I'd get you out of here before midnight.
All right. Thank you, Professor Bob. In Africa, we say, if you want 1 year of prosperity, you plant and grow the grains. If you want 10 years of prosperity, you grow trees. But if you want 100 years of prosperity, you grow people. So thank you for growing people, and we shall continue with the work of. And what Professor Bob is saying is real. America doesn't have as much money as Uganda does. I'm half American. I was born and I grew up from there. I can guarantee you that America doesn't have as much money as Uganda does. But what we lack today in Uganda, is what Professor Bob has just preached about. We can make Uganda, our societies, a better place, even better than America, if we begin to embrace this concept of philanthropy and social entrepreneurship. So I pray that this talk falls on fertile grounds. And on Saturday, we are having a breakfast meeting because we don't just want this to end with academia, but we are bringing people from different stakes of life, businessmen, entrepreneurs, civil society, including religious leaders and others, to begin to preach the gospel and listen to the gospel of philanthropy and giving back. I am reminded every day that we don't own anything in this world. Through Bob, through philanthropy. We don't own anything. I'm working on this laptop. I don't think this is mine, actually. It's not mine. Because at any second, this breath that I am pouring out today can be taken away from me. What happens to that laptop? The mansions that we are living in and we are proud of, it's not ours. We would better invest that mansion into people and growing people, and we will have prosperity. Because what we invest is vanity and we don't own it. And that's the secret behind America. So thank you, Professor Bob. I'll leave it open now for discussion, questions and answers. If anybody has a question or something to add on to this discussion today, they are welcome to do so. Maybe I start here. I can see you. Your mouth is itchy there. That's Dr. Chunamasiko, the director of our Center for Innovation and Technology Transfer.
Thank you so much, Prof. Tamkong. And thank you, Prof. Hopkins, for twisting our minds to change our mindset in terms of where we should move as a world, as a country. I am a beneficiary of philanthropy, and therefore I know what you're talking about. It can change lives. I would like to know, from your perspective, because I understand capitalism and socialism have been at crossroads. And with capitalism, it looks more on fronting yourself, where the concept of man for himself and God for us all comes in. So I would like to know from the American perspective, which I know actually has been one of those pushing the concept of capitalism, have philanthropy, which is a socialism ideology, can find its way in such a society, and how in Uganda, which is already penetrated by capitalism, can appreciate to address those bottlenecks and achieve a philanthropic kind of world that we can appreciate and be proud of, because that's where we should go. But capitalism, which is now at the forefront and has taken the center lead, is another battle that we must address. So how is America struggling to push philanthropy, but at the same time achieve the ideology of capitalism? Thank you.
Well, I don't care what the year is or what the decade is in the United States. For some reason, we give more and more money every year. We don't even know why we continue to be givers to philanthropy when we have challenges or we have a downturn in the economy. We never get worse. You just get better. I think it's because we're talking about it. I think because I'm now bringing this word in front of people and they want to know, what is it? What is this philanthropy? And I'm not only talking about it, but now my colleagues are starting to talk about it. My dean is starting to talk about it. My dean called me and said, why are you teaching philanthropy? That's not your course. Because there was no courses. And I said, do you know what it is? Do you know what it is? No, I don't. Well, it's the love of mankind. Can we teach love around here at this university? Isn't that what we're all about? I'm sorry, Bob. I'm sorry. I didn't know. I just hear your kids say, "What'd you learn at Bob's class?" Philanthropy. That's not in his course. Why are you teaching it? What is wrong with talking about helping people every single day in every single one of our courses? I don't care what we teach. Why can't we put it in our syllabuses and give some time about how you can help people via science, via technology? I mean, we can clean rivers, but you know what? We need some expertise. We need some help. We need things to do here, and it's not somebody else's problem. You see it, you do it. I'm interested to know from you, how have you been helped with philanthropy personally? Because that's how you started out.
Yeah, that's a very good one, and I was trying to avoid the details, but but thank you very much for giving me the opportunity. I was supported by a Canadian, and at the moment I have a Canadian home. I wouldn't have become that if I was not helped, if I was not given a chance to be what I am. Because I was an orphan at a very young age. And therefore, because my parent, my dad, had worked for the church, so it was a very good, clear path for me to find myself being supported. And this was through a mission which has continued to exist in Uganda and has supported many orphans. So I find myself that beneficiary that has a testimony that can actually move for many and many hours. So I come from that background, and I have personally been able to touch lives. When I realized that we only had Canadians and Americans from Oklahoma and from other provinces in Canada, some churches. So I decided to be one of many sponsors at an Anglican seminary called Bishop Macarista Anglican Seminary. So I'm the only black that is a sponsor out of the 292. And I find it is actually not much that we are called to give, but it is the heart of giving. And I find myself proud to associate with giving, and I continue to touch even more lives outside that arrangement, but even in my community. So that's my background. Thank you.
I just want to say one more thing. I only run around with people who are philanthropists. You know why? Because my life is richer with people whose lives are richer. I only run around with people who are educated because they're smarter than those people who aren't. Which is not my next book, but my next book that I'm going to be pushing is called Education is Freedom. And on my board of directors is Jim Keyes, the president of 7-Eleven of the world, which is a grocery store chain. He's on my board. You know why? Because he said, I want my book in Africa. Education is freedom. Because it is. Education is freedom. But you know what? Philanthropists tend to want to go to college. They would tend to want to go to college because they want something better for themselves. They realize because of the experiences they've had that they've got to have that degree. They've got to be higher in education because the people who are the best are philanthropists. Okay, here's one last thing I'm going to say. Some people make things happen. Some people watch things happen. And some people say, what happened? And I am only running around with people who make things happen. And I'm trying to get these courses, though, with kids who don't have that opportunity because they need a push in another direction than what they've got going for them now. And so that's my last thought. Another question? Or?
Yeah, I think Bob said it all, but I would also want to add on to what he said. It is true that America is capitalist by nature, but he already kind of cut it open by saying they are taught to give, despite the nature. Another reason is because the federal government encourages the principle of giving by giving tax breaks. If, for example, Barara University says every lecturer and every worker in this institution, we cannot help this university alone because we don't have funding. We are helpless. But every professor, every worker in this university that earns money can help us. So if, for example, Dr. Twina sponsors the construction of auditorium, for example, here, with 10 million Ugandan shillings, the university is going to give you 5 million back in your taxes, in your income tax. Wouldn't you be encouraged to donate? It would be a win-win. You will feel good for having helped, and at the same time, you would feel good for getting that one back in your rebate. And that's exactly what the American government does when you are incorporated as a 501c3 organizations. They are saying, as the federal government, we cannot help society, we cannot solve all those problems alone. So we are encouraging citizens to go there and solve those problems. And in return, you bring back the receipt, and we'll give you some money back for the work that you did. About 50% or sometime more. So I believe that if the government of Uganda, for example, begins to give tax rebates to people who are doing social and charitable work, people would be encouraged to do that more. And that is exactly the American philosophy. That's why you find a lot of American companies and non-profits flogging into Africa and doing philanthropy here. Why? Because they are giving and they are helping, they are putting smiles on faces, and then they go back and say, look, I have helped society, I've helped humanity. The federal government says, well done. At the end of the year, submit your receipts, we give you a rebate in terms of returns. So that is the philosophy behind non-profit. So I think institutions can pick that up. We also reward our children for doing good things, right? We can begin from our homes. Sharing is caring. If a child does something that works towards philanthropy, you reward the child. And that will begin to sink in their mind that actually helping, we get some benefits out of it. Not just putting smiles on people's faces, but actually physical reward in terms of. I was just trying to add something onto what Bob said already in terms of philanthropy and the giving spirit. So it's not just individuals, it's a capitalist economy, true, but at the same time it's encouraging giving and giving and giving, which is a win-win situation. Maybe Bob has something to add or somebody else has something to say about it. Philanthropy. Oh.
Thank you, Professor Bob. It's really exciting, but going to the schools and the young generation, from the background, these initiatives were there in a kind of society setting previously. But the more we've become modernized, the more we close the rest of society away from our homes. But previously, I'll give an example. I grew up with my grandmother in Kampala, but our home was always full. A home full of food, a home full of people, and some of these we didn't even know they were not our relatives, but they had equal share to whatever service that was in the home. But the more we've become westernized and modernized, we are building houses, fencing them, closing off even our immediate neighborhood. So I really don't know how this concept is going to really be practicalized. And having grown up in such a setup, I've always been happy to help. That even as I joined this university, I meet students, someone comes and they cannot afford food, I can give you a meal, share with you, and I've picked on so many people. Some of them have become my immediate relatives. Just you meet people as you move on in the world. I think it's really a good initiative. We are going back to our cultural, indigenous cultural setting, but breaking the ice of being too individualistic. I thank you.
I just want to say one comment about that. And this is a good example. I have nieces and nephews. I have nieces and nephews, and I give them $50 and say, give half of it away. And they say, what? What do you mean, give half of it away? I said, give half of it away, and I want to know who you gave it to and why. And you know what? It's a practice in my family now. We all do it. We give you some money, give half of your birthday money to somebody else, and tell me what happened and how it made you feel. And you know what? Poor people can do the same thing. They can take half of their lunch, even a half of their lunch, and share it with somebody. And it makes them feel good when they get the pat on the back and a 3 or 6 year old kid is rewarded because he gets a lollipop because of the fact he gave half of his lunch away or something. I don't want to say starve him to death, of course, but you know what I mean? This is Sheila.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Prof. Thank you so much. The talk is very educative and interesting. I like the approach of how you bring philanthropy in a simpler manner. Most times when you hear philanthropy, you think it's the huge amounts of money. I even tried to Google, and they're saying, especially those who give large sums of money. So there's a way it always makes the average person know, I can't achieve that. I can't do it. But you bring it in the manner of giving out mankind, making it much better. And I believe that's why we're all called to love, to serve, to live. The approach of dealing with the children is also very important, and I believe each one of us is challenged. I've been trying, but I pledge to add to that. And I'm grateful to FarmBioTrack for thinking about this, especially to bring in stakeholders on Saturday, because this is more than just must. This is for the community. It makes sense when many people are doing something good than just one person struggling alone. So thank you so much for reaching out, and I believe the seeds that you have planted and more that we'll keep planting will help the future. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Sheila and Professor Bob. Indeed, it is God who decided to bring you to Africa based on the story you have narrated right from the person you met in your class, and now today you are here in Uganda. That's God's work. We are indeed grateful for God for bringing you over and for giving us an enriching and enlightening talk. It has, like my colleagues, it has touched us all. And like what Madam Robina mentioned, in Africa, we have been we're working as one family. And that giving and forgiveness has always been there. And the society, which is she mentioned is growing, is that it is actually changing the trend. And we were joking with one of my colleagues, saying that, I think it was the university secretary who has left, that in Africa, there's a lot of preaching now. Many churches, almost every corner there is a church, they are preaching, please give, please give. But there are a lot of the opposite. Many people are doing the opposite. Why? It's because of the society which is changing and maybe the environment we're growing in. But I see from what you have mentioned, the way you've simplified it, it is possible. And I was looking at that angle that, yes, we can start it in schools. Bring the young children, you can start what Professor Tamkong is mentioning, from homes, encourage children for doing good, and we reward them. Then they grow up with that kind of thing. Because you learned a lot from your parents. Because your mother was giving, and you grew up with that kind of things. And most children learn from what they see from either the neighbors or relatives or even their immediate parents. And they grow up with that. If they do bad things, they also grow up with that kind of anger in them. When the parents are doing good things, they also come up with that. And it's really a very, very enriching story. And for us now, at this level, university, because I'm happy to hear that it is being taught at university now. It is already a degree in philanthropy. And I was looking at what can Barara do? What can we learn from your talk? What can we learn from what you have done? Can't we copy something similar to that? Because here we are teaching a service course. It is known as development studies. Why can't we enrich our curricula and bring in that philanthropy on board? And even every course unit, wherever I'm teaching my plant physiology or I'm teaching about ecology, climate change, you bring in that aspect. You can bring with that story. You can bring storytelling. It touches people's hearts. You start with that story, then before you go and give the academics like what you have mentioned. And when we copy that kind of attitude, we can change many lives. We can still change and help and develop the nation. And actually, that is the approach we're going to. I'm going to spread the same message to my constituency, my colleagues. We are reviewing the curricula. We could bring in that aspect, we make it, we strengthen it. Let's go to that, because when we are giving, that's create a better society. We can drive poverty away. It doesn't mean that you need to have a lot of money to drive away poverty or to help the communities, but that kind of giving or hard. And I remember a story. We have a Paris priest in my village one time. You know, when he gets a challenge, he has no money, he comes to me. Do you have something to eat? Can you help me with this? Whatever little money I have, I give. Then one time he said, why don't you be born again? Why don't you get saved? Because the way you treat us in the village here, it's like you're already born again. I say, no, it is God who gives that kind of what? Of heart, of giving. He makes you feel that, oh, someone is in need. Why don't we share with that person? So I think we are going to copy that one. It is God who has brought you here. And we need to make sure that whatever seeds you have sown should not end. We shall also start from there and make sure that we spread the message so that we can have a better community, you can better Uganda, a better East Africa, Africa and the whole world. We wouldn't be having fights and so on if we had that kind of thing in heart. We love one another, like what the Christians say. We should love one another. We should love God and love our neighbor so that we can live in peace and in harmony. And we would like to pray that God blesses you and you live longer. And we should also use that to spread the local span. We also make sure that we save, we change the communities. God bless you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Bob, for the philanthropy topic and giving back to ourselves and the community. I want to ask a question related to many of us have a thinking that when you have enough, that is when you are able to give away. Or if you don't have any challenges anymore, that is when you can give. I remember my wife has always wanted to adopt a child to help somebody who doesn't have where to go. And I've always been telling her, but we have brothers and sisters and relatives who have lots of children that are suffering, so, and we are trying to help those. Why should we get somebody that we even don't know to try and bring into our house. And she has been persistent until one time she called one of the probation officers and said, if you get a child that has been dropped away, you call me. And indeed, after a few months, some lady sends her a message of a little kid about 2 years then maybe, and says, this baby has been thrown. We got her. We have tried to advertise to get a relative and nobody has come. So she's now homeless. So if you're not going to take her, I want you to know that she is homeless. So you be with that conscience in your mind that there's somebody homeless outside there that I've refused to help. So she came and told me, I said, you bring her now. What can I do? And that baby now is about 3 years in our house. And she's the joy in our house now. She has actually brought us a little closer together because our kids now go to school. In school time, everyone goes to boarding. And that one remains dancing around with us in the house. And we are very happy with her. But I just wanted to ask, how can somebody be encouraged to be a philanthropist in the midst of all the challenges that they have around them? That you can hardly take care of your own needs, but you are being told to be a philanthropist. And the other question is, you live in a community that probably doesn't recognize the concept of God so much. How are you able to get people to rally behind you when you talk about God? You say, God tapped me on my shoulder, and there are some people who are saying, what is God? What does it even mean? So how do you rally these people together? Thank you.
If you go to church, the Bible says the more you give, the more you get. Does anybody understand that concept? Why don't you practice it? And I tell people, try it. You might like it. And also pay attention of what you do get back besides joy. Besides joy. I mean, I'm here because of the help of a lot of people. And I didn't even ask for their help. I said I need T-shirts for these kids and da-da-da-da. In 1 minute, I got Zelled $2,000 for T-shirts and caps for these people. I didn't have to even explain. I just said T-shirts and caps for kids in Africa where I'm going next week. And this is a good friend of mine who has money. But you know what? I got $250 from a man who doesn't have money. I wanted $1,000 from him, and he's older. Maybe he's younger than me, but he's old. And guess what? He gave me $250. I just asked for it. And he wanted to help. You know why? Because of people give to people who have a good cause. And they have to know you, and they have to, I don't ask strangers. I create relationship building. And that's what I'm going to talk about next Saturday to all of your friends who are going to come in. And that is that relationship building is the most important thing you do. And so when they walk out of that room, I want them going out and talking to everybody about MUST and the event that they came to where you heard about philanthropy. And that'll be to another 100 people that these people are going to go tell this about. And then you know what you do? You follow up again. And you do it again. And you do it again. And the more you ask, the more you get. But you got to have a relationship. And that's a whole nother topic, really, is how to build a relationship with people. When people say, Bob, I don't really know what to say to people. And I just say, ask them a question. People love talking about themselves. Get that going and keep asking questions. Where were you born? Which I have already done to many. Where are you born? Where do you work? What do you do? And you answer not only a question, you answer another question. Did you ever ask me any questions? No. Why not? Because you don't know how to relationship build. Relationship builds asking people questions. If you want my help, Ask me some questions. I get excited about you because I love talking about myself. But so do you.
My name is Joseph Oloro. I chair the curriculum committee in the Faculty of Medicine. And I think we talk a lot to people, and always we ask those we teach first to have a heart for those they help or they treat. When I received a message for this meeting, Professor said you're invited as a stakeholder. I didn't even understand why, but now I get it. And I am going to make a request to you. You will allow me to disturb you a lot. I had not heard much about philanthropy. I had not read about it. I started to look for it. I have taken some notes. And as Professor Lejo has said, he's a dean. The little contribution I can make is as a chair of the curriculum committee, and as we go into curriculum review, there's a lot that we can do on how we can bring this aspect of philanthropy to our students. As a university, we don't have a curriculum framework. Dr. Medada, I wrote to you sometimes back a message saying that I am currently doing a training in medical education, a fellowship, and I'm working on a curriculum framework for the university, for the Faculty of Medicine, which can be adopted by the university. This is something that we need to bring in, because it would make a difference in the graduates that get out from our faculty when they get outside there into the communities. And I promise you we are going to do this. And that's why I requested that you will allow me to disturb you, because I do not understand this much, but I want to, so that I can help my friends whom I'm sure do not. Okay, as Madame Robina has put it, we have this aspect inside us, but we have gone away from it. It's time to bring it back. And we have to. And with your help, we'll bring it back. I think this is one of the most important things I have learned today. And the best way to make it productive is to make it available to others who have not been here. Thank you very much.
I do want to say one more thing about that. Thinking of science and technology, do you know what one of the worst problems in the world is? Climate change. Is that science and technology? Yes, it's science and technology. Do you know how many nonprofits and NGOs have been established in the last 5 years because of climate change? At least thousands. Every time I turn around, I hear about a new organization trying to do something about our weather. And what do we have to do about that? That would be philanthropic. Anything that you do, anything you do as a group, anything you do in your classes that have to do with shutting off your lights or doing something or other, whatever. You're doing philanthropy for the community. And there's a whole bunch of ways to do it. I don't know what they are, but certainly you and your students could get together and find out what it is that they could do to help this planet in the name of must.
If we don't have any other, Professor Bob, we just want to appreciate your coming. And also to thank everybody who made time today. I know these are brains that have little time to outside of their regular schedule, but they decided to make time to come and listen to us or listen to you and the new concept that you're bringing in. So we don't take that for granted. Thank you to the camera crew, AYIT TV, for covering us very fully today. We will be having another session. This time it's a breakfast meeting, which is going to be on Saturdays. Most of you or some of you have received already. If not, then you are probably going to receive the invitation. It's going to be at Las Vegas Hotel. On Saturday, we begin at 8 o'clock with breakfast, and then by 11 o'clock we are done. So please find time in your busy schedule, if you do receive or you have already received the invitation, to come for the breakfast meeting so that we can together begin to build this new concept. And FarmBio Track as well is trying to partner with Professor Bob, PAVE, which is Philanthropy and Volunteerism in Entrepreneurship. So we will partner with him through a memorandum of understanding, and other organizations in MUST are welcome to do so as well, so that we can also begin to weave this concept of philanthropy and incorporate it into our daily processes as we continue to serve the community. So we really appreciate that, and that will happen, I'm sure. Otherwise, I just want to thank you on behalf of FarmBio Track. The director just went for a quick meeting, but on behalf of FarmBio Track, I want to take this opportunity to thank you and to officially call this meeting today to a close. Feel free to interact after this informally with Professor Bob and the rest of the people in here, and we are looking forward to seeing you on Saturday at Las Vegas Hotel, 8 o'clock for breakfast. Thank you very much. Professor Bob has something to say.
I just want to thank Honka.
Oh, here.
Honka is my new best friend. Long distance. And I don't think any of this would have happened without Honka, because she and I have been in conversation for a long time. And not necessarily that I haven't received other invitations, but I had a responsibility. She asked me would I please bring her a bunch of stuff from the United States, and I said I would. I had to get a plane ticket in order to do it. So thanks, Don.
All right. Thank you. Enjoy your evening. See you on Saturday. Close the prayer. Okay, Emmanuel wants to give us a closing prayer.
Do I have any international students? We are closing our session with a prayer.
Okay. The microphone.
Let's humble ourselves for prayer. Heavenly Father, I want to thank you for the gift of life. I want to thank you for this session. And want to thank you for all we have shared. May it continue to grow throughout the world. We ask this prayer through Jesus Christ, your Son. Amen.
You're watching AYIT TV, empowering you.
Elevate your event with AYIT TV. Are you looking for ways to make your event